Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to me, your host, Christian Watson. So, my friend, Senator Ron Johnson has said that the Biden administration's flagging of social media posts is a dangerous assault on freedom of speech. Now, what Senator Johnson, who is who is a senator from Wisconsin, excuse me, I had a brain fog there. What Senator Johnson is referring to is Jen Psaki, who is the press secretary of the Biden administration's admonition earlier this month that the Biden administration officials are going to be coordinating with big tech firms, and that the Surgeon General's office had upped its research of tracking and understanding disinformation. Psaki said actually that we're flagging problematic posts for Facebook that spread disinformation. Of course, this started a firestorm. This made many people think, okay, what is disinformation? Why is the government getting involved in these things? Why is the government getting involved in dictating tech policy? Could this possibly be used as a tool against valid critiques of the vaccine or of COVID that may not be well heard in this age of intellectual insularity and narrative dominance? Like, what's going on? And while there are many valid epistemological questions and even moral questions to this matter, there's one question that is really not being paid attention to by a lot of folks on the right, and this is a mistake in my opinion. That question is very simply this: why in the world would one challenge the Biden administration's attempt to encroach upon speech, not sure it's free speech, but speech in general, on tech platforms, when, on the other hand, that same person may support lawsuits that are currently pending that were launched by Mr. Trump and his friends against tech firms for apparently deplatforming him, or legislation like Ron DeSantis' legislation down in Florida, which allow Floridians to sue Facebook and Twitter if they are removed from the platform for a reason that they don't like. If you are against government intrusion into tech platforms, why in the world are you not against those moves as well? Well, because a lot of people seem to only be against things that go against sensibilities, or for things that confirm their sensibilities, even if those things are, again, immoral or not in line with their beliefs at all. And this is the big problem here, my friends. It is very difficult to deal with the censorious behavior of so many tech firms. As someone who is a political commentator and wants to be a public intellectual, social media is indispensable to my career. I need social media to be able to get my message out there, as does many other people. Whereas Thomas Paine was able to write a pamphlet and get to like 10% of the American population back in the 1700s, and he was pretty famous. If Thomas Paine did that today, he probably wouldn't get to as many people if he did not post a pamphlet on one of these platforms. The internet is the superhighway of information. Having said that, just because it would inconvenience me if someone declined to allow me to use their property does not mean that I have an obligation to use their property. Now, there are folks who would say, well, Christian, Section 230 talks about how tech companies are private entities and not, public utilities. Well, first of all, the idea of a public utility is contradictory, because nothing is truly public. Something is always privately held, which is why when I hear the term publicly funded, I think that it's a misnomer, because there are private interests directing the public funding of those things. It's only called public because it is ran or dispensed with by the government, and that presumption that the government does it, therefore it's for everyone, is a presumption that needs to die right now, because it's just not true. The government politicians are also motivated by their own self-interest, as public choice economics would tell us. So, no, this public utility thing is a misnomer and a principled absurdity that no one on the right, no conservative, no libertarian, should be using in any serious way. It largely is simply an argument from convenience. It goes something like this: these tech firms are very, very big. They're very, very powerful, and our message on these tech firms is necessary to get out in the world. Therefore, I have an obligation. Well, convenience does not denote obligation. Convenience does not denote obligation. Just because it is convenient for me to be on Facebook and Twitter and to have X amount of followers does not mean they have an obligation to give that to me. And people on the right who make these kind of arguments start to seem like people on the left who believe that liberty is not a negative thing, and i.e. it's not something that is preserved, but it is something that is given. So, if one is concerned about Biden going and whispering into the ears of Zuckerberg and Jack over at Twitter about these sort of these encroachments on their platforms, then please be as equally concerned about the courts or anyone else forcing Facebook or Twitter to adhere to certain intellectual and political ends. Because it is, again, the same action from the same accursed root. Property rights must be resolute. They must be forever. They must be protected and cherished. If information in the future is going to even be able to be created in any way that is detached from the overarching narrative. Even on these platforms, there are plenty of right-leaning conservative users who still get a lot of play and still have a lot of attention. But imagine a world in which the government decides what Facebook and Twitter do with their platforms. That is a world in which the government can quite literally bend the arc of opinion to one side and by force and by fire, get rid of alternative opinions. This is what the Biden administration is preparing to do, or what it seems like they're preparing to do. And they have been given the conceptual groundwork, the legitimacy for this, by folks who are saber-rattling and saying we have to sue big tech, we have to restrict big tech, we have to regulate big tech. No, an assault on property rights is an assault on property rights. It is an anathema to the existence of human life to attack our ability to be self-owning. It is anathema to the principles of our Americanism, principles of this republic to be so against self-ownership. And it is anathema to the safety of free expression to also be against self-ownership and property rights. So my friends, look, the Biden administration is playing with fire and doing something very wrong by basically silently coercing, working with Facebook and Twitter to reach certain conclusions. But the right is doing something equally as wrong when we say, well, this inconveniences us, therefore we have a right to it. No. That is a good way to arrive at absurd ethical conclusions that do nothing but continue the further degradation of certain conditions in our society. Think on it. My friends, I love you. If you love me, patreon.com/officialcwatson, PayPal, officialcwatson@gmail.com, locals, christianwatson.locals.com, or please join my Discord to be with me in my community, which is in the comment section down below. My friends, I love every single one of you, and please stay pensive. Bye, guys.